For those who may not know me, I'm Cecilia Jastrzembska. Good luck pronouncing that if you read it and I haven't. I'm a UK delegate for Europe Talks. I am a Control Commission member for the Young European Socialists, a senior policy advisor, political journalist, and of course, president of Young European Movement. So today I'm going to share with you some news from the world of YEM and then give you an update on the dual launch of the Young European Movement Women's Network and the European Movement Women's Network, which I wrote a motion to found that happily passed at our AGM last year. So firstly, on the YEM side of things, as we near the end of our remit and prepare activity reports, thank you, Madalena, we've been looking back on what's been nothing short of a whirlwind year. And I wanted to give you a few highlights out of the dozens and voice my thanks to an absolutely unbeatable team that's been beside me every step of the way. For one, some of you may remember that we were shortlisted for and then actually won a first of its kind Youth Champions Award from the EU delegation to the UK at the EU Citizens Gathering last year. Secondly, I'm very proud to say that we launched our campaign recently, which is named Break the Silence, End the Violence, on tackling the rising epidemic of male violence against girls across Europe and championing gender equality in partnership with the European Affairs newspaper European and the European Parliament themselves. And we had fantastic speakers, also thank you to those of you who came to that. Which included a personal hero of mine, Frances Fitzgerald, ex-MEP, who spearheaded a landmark directive legislating on violence against women and girls, ratified by all EU member states. No small feat. We also had Sana Lepola of democracy at the European Parliament. Are we switching mics? Yes, we are. Wonderful. And Leah Chambers, he is founder of Male Allies UK. I'm sure you've all seen the quite worrying radicalization of young men, and it was brilliant to have so many young men in the room talking about active allyship. We facilitated open, honest, and much needed dialogue around the need for stronger female representation and around the need for discourse itself, to actually be able to talk about an epidemic that is otherwise functioning in the shadows. We had representatives of 60 different networks in attendance, as well as our own members, and we'll be sending out a letter to government making clear our policy demands on the matter. Thirdly, Madalena and I applied a while ago, and on her excellent advice to kind of think outside of the box, we were selected in its most competitive year to represent YEM in hosting a workshop at the European Youth event, hosted in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. This brings together thousands of young activists, diplomats, policymakers, artists, content creators, and of course, MEPs. So literally the event of the year for us and an organization such as ours. Okay. And finally, we have also just been selected to become one of two co-chairs of the EU-UK Stronger Together network of networks, which brought together 125 youth organizations across the Eurosphere together last year, which was hosted by the EU delegation to the UK. Zara Akusi from the British Youth Council and I will be leading on that, and we've just had our official handover meeting. So if you want to talk about strengthening EU-UK relations and youth, we've done it. Thank you. So speaking of networks, let me give you the overview on what's happening with the Women's Network Women's Networks launch. Some of you may be familiar with a certain day that falls on 8th of March, aka International Women's Day. This is a time to celebrate the wonderful women in our lives and also reflect on and recognize the unique challenges that we face, to look inwards and to take stock of what we can do to better support them, empower them, to dissolve institutionalized barriers to their participation, and ensure that they are equally represented in decision-making spaces. As Dominic remarked, we have seen a seismic geopolitical shift. Rights are under attack, and it is the most important time to stand together, to collaborate, and to champion the European cornerstones, which include equality. Given that this falls on a Saturday this year, I'm delighted to say that we are doing launch 1 of 2 this on the evening of the Friday, 7th of March, as close to it as we can get. As we want as many people to be able to attend this as possible, we are doing this online, this first one, with a link to be circulated imminently and details of an online scoping meeting happening to be sent out prior to it for anyone who wants to get involved in shaping this network's vision. And for this online launch, I know I'm just a tad biased here, but we already have a brilliant lineup. For one, including TEDx speaker Frances Scott, who is no less than the founder of 50/50 Parliament, which works to achieve gender parity in Parliament. She single-handedly inspired 2,500 women to stand for elected office after her daughter asked her a few years ago why there were no female politicians on TV. She was named Most Influential Political Changemaker 2018, as well as being named as one of the top women in Westminster. We will also have Sarah Hyde, who was in the inaugural Jo Cox Women in Leadership cohort, is former chair of the Fabian Women's Network, of which I am on a leadership cohort for, and can personally never overstate its value. Sarah is now chair of the Fabian Society, so hand in hand with the current government. Always a good friend to have, plus a powerhouse in her own right. And last but definitely not least, we have our very own Emma Nags, and plus yours truly, and more to be confirmed. Later on down the line, we will host a physical launch in Parliament with a networking reception afterwards, and we are looking for sponsorship for this. So should you know someone who may be willing to back this, please let me know. We all know women's initiatives statistically struggle to get funding compared to others. My team is one of volunteers. We're careering through a cost of living crisis, so any support towards the work that we do is so appreciated. And on that note, to close off, I just want to thank everyone who has contributed to YEM, my entire board, and particularly everyone who supported the Women's Network launch organization, Barbara, the Diversity Committee, and everybody else. So this is nothing short of a historic moment for our movement, and I hope you will join us on the 7th online to celebrate it. Thank you.